and it's now. So welcome, everyone. I'm Stephanie Crawford. I'm the Executive Director for IDEA. We're so happy to have you with us today as we're talking about enhancing an inclusive classroom with Lumio. I think it's going to be a fantastic hour that we're spending together. I am going to throw it over and let these wonderful ladies introduce themselves, but I will say that at the end, we will leave room for questions. And I will stop the recording because I know that sometimes we get a little nervous to ask questions if we think it's going to be recorded. So I will stop the recording for your questions at the end. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining. We're super excited to be here from Smart Technologies. My name is Courtney Vanderheiden, and I am the Education Sales Consultant. So what that means is I am kind of the go-to person for school districts and for our vendor partners when they want to find out more information about smart technologies. So I kind of am the resource for all interactive flat panels that we offer, and then obviously Lumio as well, which is our web-based software solution. I am based in the Chicagoland area, so grew up in Algonquin, but currently live out near Wrigley Field. I was an educator for 11 years as well in Lake County. So I'm excited to be here today with my colleague Gretchen. So I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a second, but we want to hear from you guys as well. So we don't obviously have time to go through and have everyone come off of the microphone, but if you guys wouldn't mind putting in the chat, maybe where you're from and what you teach. So in the chat, I'm just going to put that too. So what do you teach? And maybe where are you from? Or maybe even if you want to do a little fun fact or something like that too, that'd be great. So yeah, so we just want to kind of see the clientele, if you will, or the attendees that are here. So again, if you could throw into the chat what you teach and where you're from. Oh, I missed the from part because I was multitasking, but you get the idea. But anyway, I'm gonna let Gretchen take over from here. And again, this is meant to be super informal. I will be monitoring the chat the whole time. So when you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will make sure to get those covered for you. And then you'll get a ton of resources at the end. Ooh, but that reminds me, let me give you one thing right now. We are doing a super fun promotion and we're actually giving away a free smart interactive flat panel. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So I'm going to give that link. So win a panel, win a smart panel. So if you guys want to be entered, you can share that link with your colleagues and stuff as well too. It's an open link for anybody. So if you want to try and win a smart panel, go ahead and go to that link. Otherwise, Gretchen, go ahead.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I wanted to say congratulations, the finish line. You can see it at this point. You guys are almost there. Keep going. You've got this. I am a training specialist for SMART. I am based outside of Houston, Texas. Just like Courtney, I am a former educator of 10 years. I actually just left the classroom last March, so not too long ago. So I totally understand the climate and the, demanding needs of the education. And I want to bring that curriculum and content to Lumio for you guys so you can see just how valuable this can be when you incorporate it into your classroom. So I will go ahead and get started so we can honor y'all's time. I would love for you guys, if you want, you can go to hellosmart.com on any device that you might have. And this just gets you interacting with our training session. And the great thing about this is when you go to hellosmart.com and you join as a guest, and you enter in my class code 351595, you can experience the student side of it, which I think is really, really beneficial for us teachers to see what our students see, to see the tools our students have, and just to see how engaging it is when you are delivering a Lumio lesson. So if you want to go ahead and join, Courtney, you could probably go ahead and put that hellosmart.com, join as a guest, class code 351595 in the chat. And then what we can do is we can keep going. You always have the ability, if you want to join, in a little bit, you can, but it's a really great way to see what your students will see and get to experience it as a student. And with that, I'll keep moving forward. And we're going to start this off right away with getting our kiddos engaged. So I want to get those engaged. Once again, if you want to go ahead and join, we're going to start off with a whole class whiteboard. And this is a really great option for your classroom. Basically, it gives your whole class the ability to work on one workspace. We are all contributing to this one workspace together. A great way to get instant student feedback and see what everybody has to say. So I wanted to start off, since we are talking about inclusiveness in the classroom, to tell me a time when you felt included, and then tell me a time when you felt excluded. And this could be within school, out of school. This can be when you were a kid. This can be as an adult. I mean, I know it happens as an adult. A lot of times we're included in things and sometimes we are excluded. But if you want to go ahead and throw that up there, you're going to throw that up there on the whiteboard and we can talk. Another way that I just kind of upped this whole class whiteboard to my students, putting answers up here, is I've taken this image of a heart and I've infinitely cloned it, meaning when you put your feedback up there, if you see somebody else's submission that you're like, oh my gosh, I've had that happen to me too, go ahead and grab that heart and put it next to that person's response. If you are a student, on the left-hand side, you're going to notice you have some tools that allows you can click on that and click anywhere on the whiteboard, and that gives you the ability to add text to this whiteboard. If you have a touch screen, you can use the pen feature with your finger and do a touch screen. You also have the ability, you'll see there's a heart, plus sign, and an image sign. You could add images. So even I can add text to this, and I can go over here and I can add text and say, I was invited to the team dinner with parents. So that was the time I was included with my daughter's soccer team. And then a time that I felt excluded. I have a teenager, so I'm relating everything to high school. Sometimes those high school mamas can be tough. So, time I felt excluded and a time I felt included. And the best part is I can come up to this heart and I can go down and I can say, yes, I've had that too. Or I can say, I didn't get invited to some people's birthday parties as well. What a great way maybe to start off a social circle time in your classroom in the morning, or get some feedback on something you're talking about, whether it be, a read aloud and you want to hear what the students think about things, and using that infinitely cloned object to just kind of keep that discussion going and seeing how students can relate to each other. Because once again, we're talking about inclusiveness, and it really, really helps when students are able to relate to each other and they feel like they have a bond with something. So we're going to keep.
Do you want to just show? So social, as you know, social emotional learning is really big, especially in Illinois. So this is a great activity too, as she said, to kind of let students express how they're feeling. And you can kind of see that as it's shown in public, it's not known who did what. But Gretchen, do you want to show what happens if you click on someone's response?
Right.
Yeah. So if she clicks there and uses that drop down, they'll be able to see who added that. So you will be able to see that. And you can obviously do that publicly, or you can do that privately when you're reviewing this information, later. So just wanted to quick throw that out there.
No, that's a great point, Courtney. And I like that you brought that up, because that even goes into classroom management as well. I know some of the times the teachers have asked me, they're like, oh, what if a student puts up something that, we don't really like? You can tell. And I always told my students ahead of time, you guys aren't able to see what each other put, but I can click on that down arrow and I can see. So I do see what everybody is putting up on this whole class whiteboard. I also have the ability, because this is an important tool, up in the right-hand corner, there's an everyone can edit. I can go ahead and toggle that over and it freezes the screen, meaning now my students are frozen. They can't add anything. They can't, edit anything that they put up on that whole class whiteboard. I use this for many different ways. I use this if somebody put up a really great thing and I want to stop and have a really good discussion about it, but I want the students' attention. I'll toggle off that everyone can edit. I'll have that great discussion, and then I can turn it back on and we can keep going with submitting things to our whole class whiteboard. It's also a great place if I need to, get the kids back under, control, maybe get the chaos, get them back, grounded. Maybe we need to go over expectations of a whole class whiteboard. So I do like that tool that's up in the right-hand corner for that as well. So let's keep going. And before I go any further, I want to stop and talk about kind of today what our objective is. What do we want to get out of this training session? And that's, I really want to show you guys how to create and deliver a learning experience that respects diversity, enables participation, while I am having a hard time, and considers a variety of learning using Lumio. And that's really what I love about Lumio, because it truly does have the power to give you all of these things that you would need for an inclusive classroom. It gives you the ability to meet the student accommodations if you have diverse learners. It gives you the ability to really get those students participating in your lesson. It gives you the opportunity to really show how diverse, your group or your community or your classroom is, and they get to find ways to really respectfully, relate to each other. So lots of great things that I want to try to put it into all one session for you guys today. So let's keep talking about what Lumio can do. And I'm not going to read all of these, but I want you to just take a look. These are some really great ways that Lumio can offer those inclusive tools for you for your lessons with Lumio. And I might just touch on a few. We've got the instructional audio, which I'm going to show you some examples of how I use that today. Got that immersive reader for our students that need that oral accommodation. Game-based learning. This is for all of our different types of learners. Maybe some are visual. We have visual representations. Some, learn through game-based activities. We also have small group learning. We have ways to make share links and do student pacing. So lots of really great options for you that Lumio gives you all in one place. Okay, so let's try a game-based activity. And I really love these game-based activities because sometimes they're really great at the beginning of the lesson. I know as teachers, we always tend to think, oh, let's put the game at the end so we can review our content at the end. But sometimes these game-based activities are really powerful if you put them at the beginning of your lesson and you use them for an opinion-based question. And I'm going to show you that today. If you want to go ahead and click start on your game, and this would be something that I would give my students to start getting a lesson going of getting to know each other, finding similarities with each other. And we would start with something that is our favorite and least favorite. So I would have my students go ahead and rank their most favorite animal down to their least favorite animal. I think maybe I'll switch alligator and cat. So if you want to go ahead and just quickly put in your favorite and least favorite. And I did leave a spot for other because, sometimes you just can't guess what students want. So you put in other, but here's the best part about this. This is one of our game-based activities that offers a dashboard. So while you guys are playing the game and I'm in the model activity as a teacher, I can go up to the top of my screen and I can click view progress and I can actually see live results in the moment as my students are completing this game. And I can see that I have 3 students that have completed. 1 is still in progress. 1 hasn't started yet. I can see that there's been an average of 39 seconds. Now, there are no correct or incorrect answers on this because I may put the setting on don't check because this is an opinion based. But what I like is it's kind of rating the average ranking. So right now, average, most of us picked dog as our favorite animal. And so this gives me a great place to start a discussion right off the bat with my students. So I can say, oh my gosh, I can see that alligator didn't really make it high on the list. Why would we be so, why isn't an alligator our favorite? And we can start talking about these different animals. I also have the ability to go over to the left side and click on student progress. Now, clearly I wouldn't show this up in front of everyone on my board. And, this would be something for me maybe to look at home or maybe on my own teaching device that's not hooked up to my projector or my smartboard. But I can go in and I can look at my students and how the average time it took them. Now, if we were doing a game-based activity that had correct and incorrect answers, it would also display that data for me, letting me know that, Melody got 5 out of 8 questions right. And I would know, how well they did on that. So I do have the ability to see into my students and see how they did on this activity. So building off of this game-based activity, because this was kind of my way to hook the students, bring them into my, class discussion or my lesson that I'm starting, I'm going to go down to my next activity and we're going to move right into a group workspace. And I'm going to go ahead and set it up with my students. I have 5 students, so I think I'm going to do, let's do 2 teams. And it digitally puts my students into teams, which is really, really great for me. Now, if I had a few more teams, I would try to do it in teams of just 2 kiddos. I'm going to have a group of 3. That's okay. But I like how it easily puts the students into my teams and we're ready to go. However, the great thing about this is if I know Michelle and Melanie don't work well, I can easily come over and quickly switch the groups, and then I can click Start Group Workspace and we're ready to go. So I like the ability that I can move students around if I need to, and now we're ready to start our group workspace. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to go ahead and give some directions. Here I brought in one of our ready-made resources, which was a Venn diagram. It was already made for me, which was fantastic. I didn't have to build it myself. All I did was add the text that I wanted to my Venn diagram. And so I wrote, find the similarities and differences between your 2 favorite animals. So I'm trying to get my kiddos to working into groups of 2. So they're each going to pick one side of the Venn diagram. They're going to type in their favorite animal that they chose. And then we're going to start finding similarities and differences. So right away, I'm partnering them up. They're really participating. They're getting to talk, discuss. In my classroom, I would have this looking like I would probably have the students take their devices, find their team that they're with, and sit with each other so they also have that verbal conversation, because I don't want it to all just be done on their devices. We call that deviceolation. And then there's not a lot of talking going on. And I want there to be talking with this. I want them to get to know, why is that your favorite animal? What things are alike and what things are different between our 2 animals? Another great feature of the group workspace is I can go in and on team 1, I can go in and I can add, instant feedback to my students. Great job. And they're going to get to see that. I can also scroll into team 2 and I can see, oh, look at team 2 is really doing good. So I might go and I'm just going to quick add a star just to let them know that I'm looking at it and I am loving what I'm seeing. So they're going to get that instant real-time feedback from their teacher. They know they're doing a good job. It's not me trying to run around the room because they know I can see it right from my device. And I'm looking in on everybody's. I can offer help if I need to be. So I really love that you guys are trying out some of these features. I can always go back and look at my other team and see what's going on. Since we're talking about inclusiveness, I wanted to take it a step further though. Sometimes these Venn diagrams are great. My students can jump right in, but some of our students can't just jump right into this Venn diagram. Some of our students have different learning styles. Some of our students have accommodations that they need. So I went ahead and just to show you an example of how I changed this ready-made resource, this Venn diagram that I had for my students, and I turned it into an individual handout, meaning each and every student is going to get a digital copy of this. But when you look at this digital copy, this is kind of how I upgraded it a little bit to think of ways to help out my students with different learning abilities. I added some things to this. I put a number. I want them to find 3 similarities and 3 differences. I typed out the word same so they knew exactly where I wanted the similarities to go, and then they would know where the differences. I also was able to add a word bank just with some easy text. I locked down my other words, but I left these words able to move. So my students can start using some of these words right away to help them kind of get going, to help give them some idea. I could add sentence stems at the bottom that they could move in and finish off those sentence stems. Lots of different ways that you can make this a very inclusive lesson for your students. I could offer this version for the individual handout. I could also offer that first version for maybe my students that are kind of the above average learner and they catch on to things quick and they're ready to run with it and they like to have lots of freedom in what they're going to put. Another example of an accommodation that I wanted to show you was over on the right-hand corner. I have this little man that has a press play button. This is your instructional audio. This is where I went ahead and I recorded myself giving instructions on what to do here. So you can press it. I don't want to have to play it too much.
With your partner, find 3 similarities
but we're able to hear those instructions. So for my students that might need to hear those instructions several times, they can go back and they can replay it so they can keep hearing it. What a great way for me not to have to run around the room, give directions 800 times, or if this is a student-paced activity, they can have their headphones on and they can be moving through this and hear my instruction. So lots of different ways that I can really help my students and all the different learning abilities and all the different learning styles be able to do this one activity. Okay, so let's keep moving on to look at another example, how we can bring inclusiveness into our classroom. I brought in an activity called a shout it out. I love shout it outs. They're super easy to set up. They're super easy to put into my lesson, and I can use them in any content area I want. I'm going to go ahead and start it for the class. And my question to you, this would be a reading language arts classroom, is what is your favorite book? So many different things I could do for this. I'm having my students tell me what their favorite book. This might be a beginning of the year activity for my reading class. I want to see what my students are reading. I want to see if, some of them have read the same book. We can get some group discussions going. They could break off into teams to talk about the book. We could go into the main characters of these favorite books when they start popping up on my shout it out board. And we can see, what characters they like or what genres they like. So lots of different ways I can use this shout it out. And one of the great things is on my shout it out, I can once again move around my responses, and you'll see that you guys don't have the ability, if we have anyone else that puts up a favorite book, you don't have the ability to edit somebody else's work or delete someone else's work. We can easily move. Oh, so I got the Harry Potter series. Oh, The Giver. I got Goodnight Moon. Oh, I used to read that to my babies. Okay, so one thing you'll notice on the shout it out is you have the first 3 letters of your name that pop up with your submission. Now, a lot of times I've used this shout it out for, once again, some social emotional learning time. And maybe my students at the beginning of the year, they didn't want their name attached. They wanted it to be an anonymous way to put an answer up on the board. So you can simply go over to your side, your left-hand side, go to that cog wheel, click on that. These are your settings. And I can go down to where it says display names, and I can turn that off. And you'll notice instantly now you just have a shape with your answers to it. However, on my own device, I can always see who did what and how many times they've contributed. But when it's up on the board, the names are anonymous, and we can just talk about the answers that are up on the board. So I really love shout it out. You can add lots of different ways to use this in all grades. I knew a preschool and kindergarten teacher that started this off with just having the students type in their name each morning. And you wouldn't believe how excited these kindergartners got when they typed in their name and they saw it pop up on the big projector, the big board. It was a really great time for them. And they got really good practice at spelling out their name and typing out their name. And then they would eventually move on. I had a pre-K teacher that every morning they focused on just finding one letter, and it was find the letter A, and the kids would type the A in and it would pop up on the board. And that was a really great way. So shout it out can be used all the way in all the different grades. So another great way that I brought in another type of lesson is when we focused on a book. So we talked about what our favorite book is. Now we're going to get into reading a book that talks about diversity and about differences with people. And what I liked is I just took a blank page, I put up the book title and thing, but I attached a hyperlink to the YouTube of the reading. So we could easily click on the hyperlink and start the reading if we wanted to, and have it read to my students. And I have it right there all in one lesson. I didn't have to have another tab just open and waiting for me. I just hyperlinked it in. From after reading that text, we would maybe go into a whole class whiteboard. And this is a really great place for my students and I to talk about how we could ask about differences with respect. What a great lesson for the beginning of the school year. When you want to talk about that we all have differences, how can we respectfully ask about somebody's difference or maybe somebody's disability or somebody's, learning style in a respectful way? So this is a great SEL lesson that you could do at the beginning of the year. And as always, this is a whole class whiteboard. We can all submit our answers into our brainstorming web. Once again, this is a ready-made resource that all I did was click add it to my lesson. I typed in the text right here and I instantly had a graphic organizer for my students to all contribute to. And then going into an individual handout, this is where they would all get their own individual digital copy. And I could easily go down to the right-hand side and click on Teacher Handout. And I could discuss the instructions for how this is. Now, the book was based off of a garden, so I would have my students be able to decorate their own garden and do a picture of themselves. So they could either draw this if they had a touch screen, or maybe they could add images. I added some images of flowers for some of my students that, need them right there. But then I also let my students that, have the ability to go over to the images and they could safely search up some flowers to add to their garden if they wanted to. We have that Bing Safe Search for our students to be able to add images to their garden. And they can work on this. Now, the best part about an individual handout is when I deliver this lesson to my class, all the work that is done in this Lumio lesson now lives in this Lumio lesson forever. So my students can work on this, and then at night when I'm at home in my pajamas on my couch, I can go back into this Lumio lesson that I delivered to, during the day, and I can go back in and I can click on my students' names and I can see the work that they did and I can give them a grade. Courtney, I love it, the queen. And I can go ahead and I can give them a grade, or I can give them feedback. I can take a look at all their work. Now, one thing that I like to touch on with teachers is that keep in mind, when you deliver a Lumio lesson and your students do work on that, like I said, now the work lives in that Lumio lesson forever. So if you're a teacher that has multiple classes, no worries. All you do is you simply make a copy of that Lumio lesson, as many class periods as you have, and just name those, class period 1, class period 2, class period 3, and now you'll have all your students' work separated into their correct class periods. Okay, going on to the next, we have a group workspace. Once again, wanted to put you into groups. I'll go ahead and just do 2 groups, throw you guys into your groups, and we're going to start that workspace. And we'll take a look at what this workspace is. Okay, so I did a lot of elementary examples. I wanted to show for my secondary teachers just another way that I can bring in this whole inclusive idea to our learning. And I chose to bring in a PDF. It's a PDF I had saved to my computer. It was super easy. I just imported this PDF. However, I was able to take it a little step further. I was able to I went back to those shapes and images and lines, and I added 2 shapes to my poem. I infinitely cloned them. So now where it says, as you read, take notes on the speaker's feelings about her identity, I'm going to have my students put a heart wherever they see the speaker feelings about her identity. And then I went over and I decided, well, hey, put a little green thought bubble next to any of those parts where you can relate to her feeling about her identity. So this is a way that I'm really bringing in that diversity into my classroom. I wanted to find literacy that really reflected my students. So I went ahead and found a poem from a Dominican American poet for my students, just so they can go ahead and relate on that. And I thought her poem was extremely powerful. And she talks about her feelings about her identity. So what a great way for my high schoolers to kind of be able to relate to her and how she's feeling. And as always, I went ahead and I added my instructional audio. If I had students with that, they need that text read to them orally, I've got you. I went ahead and I
Julia Alvarez is a
recorded myself reading this entire PDF. I have 5 minutes of instructional audio, so I had plenty of time to read this poem to my students. So for those students that have that auditory learner, I've got them. I can do that instructional audio for them. So let's just keep going. That's just the second page. I infinitely closed and cloned those shapes again. And then to follow up with that PDF, to keep that learning going, I really want to work on that, keeping that learning going. I did an individual handout. And I want to show My students, I want them to give 3 examples of the author's feelings about her identity and then relate it to feelings about your identity. So we've read that poem and now we are going to do 3 examples of her feelings and how they can relate to it. This would be a great thing that I would probably have my students get into groups and then maybe share their graphic organizers on to really get the conversation going on the feelings and identity and how it relates to the poem. So I tried to show you guys all these different ways that Lumio can bring in so much inclusiveness into your classroom and really, respect diversity and the students' learning styles and learning abilities all into one place. So I felt like that went really fast, but I would love for us to be able now to go into the teacher dashboard side of it, maybe take a look around and we're going to, play around with some of the features and functions, maybe try to build something just so you guys can get a feel of what it's like to build within Lumio. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and leave the student perspective. And you're going to do that by going up to the left-hand corner. There's 3 lines. You're going to click on that and you're going to click on that blue box that says leave class. And as I'm watching you guys leave class, I click on those 2 little people image up in that left side. I call that my classroom management tool. And I can see that my students all left my class. There's nobody left. I do have the ability that if a student gets left in my class, I just simply go down to edit. I click on remove students and I can have them removed. The next thing I want you to do, and I'm going to show you how to do this, but I'm going to have you go to the teacher's perspective. You're going to go to lum.io and you're going to go up to the right-hand corner and click on teacher sign in. And then you're going to go ahead either through Google or Microsoft, or whatever district you are with. You're going to sign in with your Google or Microsoft credentials. And if you have any problems signing in, please put it in the chat. Courtney or myself, we can kind of walk you through it to make sure you guys get in as well. And you'll know you've ended in the right place when you get to the part that looks like mine. You'll see you have a banner. On the left-hand side, you'll have your name. You'll have the class ID on the right-hand side. But let us know if you are trying to get in and you're having difficulties. And what we're going to do is I'm going to quickly just kind of touch on a few things that I really want you to focus on. But feel free, to be that button pusher, go in, do some exploring in your Lumio dashboard. But as always, here's my class ID on the right-hand side. Remember, your class ID never changes once you're signed in. You will always have that class ID. You have the ability to edit your class. You can make some changes there if you'd like. But going across the top, I think this is the most valuable place. Right now, we're in the My Library, meaning this is my library where I built all of my lessons. But if I click on Lumio Library, this is gold to me. This is where we have a lot of ready-made resources. We've created lessons for you guys. We've created game-based activities. We have even added more graphic organizers, tons of manipulatives. And remember, you can take any of these already made resources, you simply save them or add them to my library, your library, and then you have the ability when they're in your library, you can edit them, you can change, you can add text to them. You can do whatever you need to them to really make it meet the needs of your classroom. So this is a really great place to check out, especially if you're like, I just don't have time, or I don't think I can build a whole lesson. Come in here, type in up at the top your resource, what grade level you're looking for. We might have already built something that you could very easily go in and use and alter it to make it work for your classroom. I'm going to go back to the top, click on My Library. And now I want to go over to the left-hand side, right under my name. I've got 2 places. I can go to the new or I can go to import. I'm going to go over to new, that plus sign. And I'm going to click on plus. And what it does, I like to call this my Lumio toolkit. This is where I can start building a lesson with all these different ways. If I want, I can click on import resource and I can bring in something from my computer. For instance, that PDF that I showed you for that secondary lesson, or a PowerPoint notebook file. I can go to my Google Drive because I am a part of the Google district. So I can go to my Google Drive, bring any Google slide, Google document over, or I can go back into my library. If I've already built something in my Lumio and it was really great, I might have used it 3 weeks ago, but I want to use it again, I can go back and I can pull just that one activity that I used and I can put it in a new lesson. I also have the ability to add a YouTube video with no ads or commercials, my Desmos graphing calculator, interactive simulations. Those are for my math and science teachers. These are really great way to get your students interacting and engaged. Going down to your templates, you've got new pages. These are similar to PowerPoint or Google slide presentations. Here's that shout it out that I absolutely love. Super easy to put together. Formative assessment. Here are your game-based activities. And at the bottom, we have those ready-made resources. This is where I got all those graphic organizers that were already made, and I just added my text. So lots of really neat options for you to check out. What I want to do, if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to begin to build a game-based activity just to kind of see what it feels like to build it. If you have an idea in your head of something you want to try out, please feel free to go and do whatever you got. If you want to try out that building that shout it out, go for it. If you kind of want to just follow along with me, kind of just see what it feels like, follow along with me. We're going to click on game-based activities. And I've got 12 different options here, 12 different games that I can start with. What I love about this is if I'm not really sure what the game entails, I just go up to that right-hand corner where the graduation hat is. I click on it and it gives me a short little snippet video of, hey, this is what Match 'em Up looks like. This is what your students would be doing. So I can always look at it and decide if that's what I really need for my content. If not, I can always go to another one, check out what that looks like. But I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to do a rank order, which is what I showed you at the beginning, what you guys did at the beginning of this lesson. And I'm going to click on rank order. So when I click on rank order, it's now going to give me the ability to add in my text. It allows me to decide, do I want to check answers instantly, when prompted, or don't check? And then ranking labels, first or last, are examples. So I'm thinking, since I'm, did the whole favorite animal, I might just keep it as that, an opinion-based rank order. If you have something else in mind, please feel free. But I'm going to move that check answers to don't check because this is totally opinion-based. And then I'm going to say favorite and least favorite. Woo! Put on the caps. Okay, so I've got favorite, least favorite. Now, I'm thinking back to school activity. What a great way. You could do this as an end of the year school activity. You could take this back to your classroom next week and put this in of like, what was one of their favorite classroom lessons that you gave? Or what was one of their favorite projects that they did this year? Ranking it down to least favorite. Lots of different things, but I'm going to stick with animals. Feel free to choose whatever content you want to add in. And I'm just going to add some animals to this. Now, the great thing is if I have students that are pre-emergent readers and they're not quite ready to read all that text, I can go over and I've got little boxes with those mountains. I can click on that and I can always do images instead. So I could do an image of an elephant. So maybe I want to add images instead of text for my early learners. I could do all images, or I can go back and forth and do images and then maybe some text, just depends. And we'll do one more. We'll do, so I'm going to type in my text right there. And I think I've got enough, but you know what? I always have the ability to go back in and edit it if I want to. I'm going to click next. And the great thing is Lumio offers several different types of themed backgrounds for you, which my kids absolutely love. So you can either choose a themed background or you can do it simple if you've got your secondary students and you don't want to mess with a theme, or you can always go into custom and you can choose a custom background. So I could always click on that custom, click on next, and I'm going to go up to that, once again, that box with the mountains, that always means image. And I might just type in something like grass. Use that. Now that's my background. I'm going to save it. And now I've got the background of grass. I have the ability to change the font color to make sure that it shows up. It can either be black or white. When I see how I like it, I'm going to click finish. And now it's going to add an activity to my lesson. So now it's beginning that lesson for me by building that rank order. And I think we built that rank order in what, 2, maybe 3 minutes? Super quick, super easy. Was able to put in my content, and now I've got it. Now here's the best part. I can preview it, make sure I like the way it looks. If there's something I don't like, if I want to add something, I just X out. And up at the top right there, it says edit activity. All I do is click on that edit activity, and I'm right back in where I can edit my game-based activity. So I've got that rank order in, and now I want to try adding to it because we played the game. Now let's take that learning right to the next level and add that graphic organizer. So now I've got this set up. I'm going to go to my left-hand side, and I'm going to go all the way down. There's that blue bar with the plus sign. I'm going to click on that plus sign, and I get my toolkit again. I'm going to go down to those graphic organizers. These are what I love. I have all of these graphic organizers. They're already made for me. They're right there. All I need to do is put them in. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. And a lot of these graphic organizers, you'll see some text on them. Don't worry about that. You can use these graphic organizers for whatever lesson you need them for. You can always take out the text that they have in there and add your own text. So I'm going to go down to that Venn diagram. I'm going to click on that Venn diagram, and it's going to add it right after that rank order for me. Now I've got that Venn diagram in my lesson, and I'm just going to add my text and instructions to make sure my students know just what to do. I want to add those lines so they know where to text the name of the animals. So I'm going to go to that up at the top. I've got my editing tools. I've got my pen tool that if I had a pen, I could use. I've got an eraser. I've also got that A, that's my text tool to type in text. This is my equation editor. These are for my math and chemistry teachers. And then here are our images and shapes. So I'm going to click on that. And over on the side, I can either add shapes, I can add lines, or I can go down and add an image or that hyperlink where I added that YouTube of the book being read. That's where I could also add. I'm going to go up to those shapes and lines. I'm going to click on this line and bring it over. I'm going to put it right there. Now, one thing I want to tell you when we're doing this, if I know my students are going to be working on this, when I add something to this page, I need to click on it, go to that little blue down arrow, click on that down arrow, and I need to go down to lock. I need to lock that line in place, or else my students are going to move those lines all over. Okay, I'm going to go get one more, put it right on the other side. There we go. Click on it, click that down arrow, click lock. And now I have that Venn diagram where they're going to enter in their animal names. And now I'm ready to just add some text directions to this. I'm going to go up to that A, click on that A, and I'm going to type in, find this there. And differences between two favorite animals. I'm going to make it a little bolder. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Then click on that dot and pull it, stretch it out, and get it up at the top. Oh, might want to go back in and spell that correctly too. I don't know about you guys, but I taught 5th graders and they loved it when I made a mistake. That was probably their favorite thing to do was point out.
Spelling is still hard, even in my 40s sometimes. So.
Okay, so I was able to build this graphic organizer because frankly, the graphic organizer was done for me. I built a game, I built a graphic organizer in the span of about 8 minutes. So I've really been able to create this lesson in a short amount of time. A few more things that I wanted to show you before we wrap it up. Up top, I have my editing tools. If I keep going to the right, I have a magic wand. I like to say this is where the magic happens. I'm going to click on that magic wand. This is where I really get that student engagement and interactivity. This is where I can decide if I want this graphic organizer to be an individual handout, meaning every student gets a digital copy. Or this is where I can make it a group workspace where I put my students into digital groups and now they work on this one together. or we can make it a whole class whiteboard where we're all contributing to one whiteboard. So you have that ability. I can also go over, and there's that little man's face with the talking. Here's where I can add instructional audio. This is where I can give those directions and record them. I simply click on start recording. I'll give my students instructions. And once I click record and I get those recordings, I can stop it. I click add. And now that black box is over in the right-hand corner for my students. So they have that option. I want to make this a group workspace. Click on that magic wand, click on group workspace, and it's ready to go. I'm also going to go up to the top. Right now, you see this lesson is labeled untitled. I don't want it to say that. So I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to type in favorite animals. So I got the favorite animals, and I'm ready to click finish editing. Once I click finish editing, it now lives in my library. If I ever want to share it out to my colleagues, I'm going to hover over it. You'll see I can either start the lesson, I can edit it, I can click on those three dots, and it gives me the options to go in and edit, rename, or here's that share link. I can click that share link. I can click copy to give other teachers a copy of this. And the best part about this is when I click on this link and I share it with my colleagues, they'll save it to their Lumio library, and now they can edit it. They can chop it up, they can add to it, whatever they need to do, and it never affects my lesson, my original lesson that I made. I also have the ability to copy and do a student share link if I want them working at a student pace, maybe outside of the classroom. And that last, clicking on those three dots, there's make a copy. If you have several class periods, remember you want to make several copies because your students' work lives in your Lumio lesson. So I think I tried to touch on as much as I possibly could. I'm going to go back into our lesson that we were currently working on. And Courtney and I are going to begin to wrap it up. So let me scroll on down. I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. Okay, so just quickly, I want to touch on if you guys are using Lumio in your classroom, or maybe you're new to Lumio, but you're really loving what you're seeing, I would love to see you guys become ambassadors. It's super easy. In fact, it's so easy that if you built those two things right along with me, if you built a rank order game-based activity and you built that graphic organizer with me, all you have to do is go to our website and click on ambassador and apply, and you can use the lesson we just built. That's all you needed to do, and you can become an ambassador with Lumio. The best part about this is we connect you to a community of teachers. You get tips, you get tricks, you get new lesson ideas, you get invited to events that we host for our ambassadors, lots of great things. You do not have to be an expert. You just have to love Lumio and you want to know more about it. So I really suggest you take a look at the ambassador program. And then I've included another place for Lumio resources. This is great, you guys. This offers tons of training and instructional resources. We have lots of great toolkits and ideas and ways to use Lumio with your lessons. We also have a YouTube channel, which is great. We put a lot of our past recorded webinars on there. You can fast forward through the fluff talk and just watch what you really want if you want to know some more about Lumio. We also have a place for our ambassador community that you can click on. And we're always hosting webinars, and you are always more than welcome to join. You can simply look at our webinars, register for the ones that interest you. We do a lot more content specific, grade level specific ones. And the best part is if you register for them and you can't make it, no worries, we got you. We'll send you a recording of it to your email and you can watch it on your own time. So lots of different really great options. And we now Courtney and I are here and we'll be here for questions. If you have any questions for us or anything that you'd like us to touch on again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gretchen. So I just put a couple of things in the chat and we're going to put a couple more. And I know that Stephanie's going to come on here in just a minute too and talk about the CPUs or whatever they're called now. But anyway, so as you guys continue to familiarize yourselves, sorry, I should put my camera on. As you familiarize yourselves with Lumio, if you guys have questions that come up, by all means, you can email myself or Gretchen. So you can copy and paste those email addresses into, wherever you save things. Gretchen, would you mind taking the link from this presentation? We want to give you that as well. So The nice thing about having this presentation is that one, you can obviously go back at your own pace, because I know that this is kind of a fast and furious situation with just having, under an hour to do this. So you can kind of remind yourself of how you can create things, what they look like from the student perspective. If you are interested in being an ambassador for SMART, or just joining our community in terms of social media or those webinars that you talked about, that's all there. So Gretchen put that link in the chat, which is awesome. And I'm going to put one more link into the chat. So if you do follow us on social media, you might be aware of this, but if not, here's some new info. So we tend to kind of, stick with the trends and do some things. Like we just had comic book day, and we had a comic book illustrator kind of do like an edutainment type of situation with us. And so basically we're going to give you those resources for free also. So if you didn't see that, no worries. If you did, then you probably already have this. But anyway, we just collect a little bit of information from you, and you guys will get classroom activities that you can use. And you'll also get, what is it? There's 3 things. Why am I blanking now? Anyway, but anyway, you'll get the live stream recording of that comic book day feature. You will get an exclusive Lumio activity that you can use with your students. And then you'll also get a classroom activity kit that has like some live streams and some printout guides and things like that for some fun classroom activities. So again, that's going to be kind of the final thing that we're putting in here. So that is our comic book.
And just to say, because I forgot to mention this too, we have a Lumio educator Facebook group. Please join that, you guys. It's great. There are some awesome, really innovative teachers that put great ideas on that Facebook group. And a lot of times we post our events there. So definitely just go into Facebook and join that Lumio educators group, because that's just a great way to see even some new tips and tricks on Lumio.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got, I know, even in the chat, there's lots of stuff. Ooh, I love it. Yes.
That's awesome.
This is my favorite thing about this, is because I feel like sometimes contests are like, yeah, I'm going to enter. You're not really going to pick someone, but I love it. We really do. We really do. And actually I have the interactive flat panel, the contest that we have going on right now for winning an interactive flat panel. I can promise you that we did the same thing in the first, it just ended in March. So it was like kind of the second half of 2022, first half of 2023, and someone from Des Moines, Iowa won. So I know this for a fact, since that's my territory also. So this is not just blank space. We are, actually fulfilling those promises and those contests. So love that. We love that. So